Alright, guys. I thought I was asked to tell my story, how what got me into prepping. So, I thought I'd go ahead and answer that. I don't think I've ever done this before. Anyway, it's not a one deal instance that did it for me. It was something that kind of built up over time. 9 years old, I remember seeing the violence in the LA riots in the news, right? I remember my parents are watching the news in the living room, and I walk in and see what's going on. All the violence, people burning stuff down and fighting, right? And I asked my father, why don't people just stay home if all that's going on outside? He said, well, people still need to go out. Maybe they've got to go to work to pay bills. They got a doctor's appointment or something. Maybe got to pick up medications or go to the grocery store. And I'm just thinking about that. Like, man, what would it be like if one day my father was, going to go pick up milk, eggs, and bread, and be killed by people like that? Because, the National Guard was called in to end the violence, but many people were killed, Hundreds were seriously injured. Seriously injured. Thousands were injured, but hundreds seriously injured. Many people died. And I just thought about that. Like, even though I was in LA, like, well, that could, of course, you see something. What if that happens here? And I'll just think about that, man. What if I lost one of my parents like that? Man, it's just probably better to have stuff inside. If something like that happens, you don't have to leave. And that was it. That didn't really, I don't think that really had a huge effect, but I remember thinking that. And then, fast forward way later, I'm in high school working as a cashier. I remember we had near hurricane force winds. Up East Austin was flooded pretty bad. People rushed to the stores and stock up. I remember my father had this drawer with a flashlight, and candles and stuff like that, matches, batteries, flashlight. I decided to expand on that. Got a large box and put candles, matches, lighters, nails, duct tape, tarp, oil lamps, and a can opener, some canned goods, and some bottled water in there. Taped it up and left it at that. And then fast forward a little bit, September 11th, right? Afterwards, people were talking about terrorists using chemical or biological weapons, and people should have emergency supplies. I didn't think that was going to happen, and I thought it was far less likely to happen where I lived. Thought maybe if you lived in larger, popular, maybe more likely target like New York, D.C., L.A., something like that, then it'd definitely be a good idea. But I put some canned goods in boxes, some variety, and taped them up. A general use by date on the outside with marker, and that's it. Didn't say what was in it, just used by, just the date. And I thought it was a good idea to keep stuff on hand, long shelf life. Even if it wasn't for some terrorist attack type thing. Just a good idea. They have some of the recommendations. I'm like, that's a good idea. I used that to base off, what to put aside. And that was it. 2003, H5N1. One day in the break room, I'm watching the news, and they're saying the virus may have mutated to transmit from person to person, as most of a family in Thailand were infected. Right? Now, in school, I loved biology, man. Thought that was pretty cool. And, thought it was fascinating. Virology, I thought that was fascinating. I remember reading on the Spanish flu and, smallpox, Black Plague and like how things can, that they just fascinated me. How a little germ could do so much damage, and a little virus could do so much. It's almost unstoppable, but it's so small. And I remember watching this thing on TV. They're saying that because I was always watching Learning Channel back then. I think it was Discovery and Learning Channel were the ones. But talking about Russia may have had samples that may have gotten out or something like that. So it could, if it got out, it could be bad. So, I was fascinated, stuff like that. And then I see this report. So the next day after reporting that, they think it may have went from person to person, been able to transmit easily. Got out of work. Turned on the news. It was CNN, I think. Nothing. No follow-up, nothing. I went to the grocery store that night, stocked up. I brought it home, made a list, and went to another grocery store and did the same thing. I took all the old boxes of canned goods and took them out, put them in the pantry and cupboard. And then I loaded up, I think I had like 2 in the pantry, and I wound up loading up 5, right? And put the old stuff went on the cupboards, new stuff in the closet. And as I figured, nothing on the same channel or any other channel the following days or weeks. I thought the worst. If something was wrong, they could not say so. It would cause a panic. People rushing to the stores for food and water. People rushing to the hospital, breaking into clinics for supplies. I knew that'd be bad, It's like, think of War of the Worlds, right? People thought that was real, and, all the people that committed suicide, all the stuff that happened there. I thought the same thing. Like, well, they probably wouldn't want to do that because something like that might happen. Anyway, nothing happened, thank God. But, I had stuff put aside just in case. And I felt comfortable knowing, hey, if I got that, at least that much. I was already set up. I didn't have to go out looking for this stuff because I already had it. I could add more to it, but I had some at least in case I failed, in case the stores were already blown. Fast forward 2005, Hurricane Katrina. I saw the aftermath on TV in the break room at work. They said that there were bodies in the water, right? Sewage, and that they were worried people would die from drinking contaminated water. I remember seeing looters on TV taking TVs, DVDs, right? Cell phones when there's no power. I was like, man, those things have to be damaged, but stores flooded, but they're in there taking stuff. Right? Food and water I can understand, right? If you got to break into a place to survive, feed your family so you don't die, you can always come back, hey, look, man, I had to bust into your shop to get food and water for my wife and kid. And what do I owe you? I'm here to pay for pay my way. I get that. I can stand behind that. But bust into a place, taking flat screens and basketball shoes that are soaked, man, there's no justification for that. So again, I thought about it, man. In that kind of situation, they talk about snipers and stuff, people killing people. I found out that, eventually the cops were killing people too. Right? Those like 5 cops, and I forget the name of that bridge, but they shot some mentally handicapped guy and falsified evidence. So that was pretty bad. But I didn't know at the time. I'm just thinking, hey, it's better to have stuff at home and hunker down. And that's what some people did, Later that year, Hurricane Rita hits. It hits Houston. I'm heading home from work to get a 6-pack. Right? I see a guy, 2 guys, almost get into a fight over a couple of 1-gallon gas cans at a convenience store. One guy starts yelling at the clerk, checking the back if there's any more, and he's yelling out that he's a refugee out of Houston. And I said I was a refugee from work, and he still waited his turn. And I thought about it. It was so important. If it's so important, why not have it at home in the garage or something? Anyway, so I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's a good idea to keep a little bit of fuel aside. Just in case. If it's so important, have it ahead of time. Late 2007, Great Recession. Lots of people lose perceived personal wealth as their main asset, their home, which is not really an asset. It's a place to live. Loses value, and stock market, takes a nosedive. Right? Call it the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. And that was just paper wealth, And like what's going on now. But anyway, I saw that things can change very quickly. People lose their jobs, they have all this money and then it's gone. And just having a rough time. I know this one guy I worked with said that his cousin was laid off, and what he did with his paycheck is he just went and loaded up his pantry and cabinets, just with all the food he could, stock up and go on that. And I'm like, well, that's not a bad idea, And I thought about if that was me, well, I would do the same thing. But also, I had some at home already. Just the same thing. Rotate it out. Again. So, and here's a big one. 2008. Right? I'm almost killed. Right? They had an assault with deadly weapon. Really should have been attempted murder, but they wanted to make sure he got charged with something. I was nearly killed by a friend of mine from high school. Right? So, I guess I'll get into this story here. Back in the day, I used to drink and lift a lot, right? That's it. So, I used to lift weights for a couple hours, 4 times a week. I used to go running with a weight vest. I used to go to this track, had a weight vest, and it was 8 laps per mile. So I did 2 miles with the weight vest, took off the weight vest, did some jump rope, right? Do 100, and if I tripped or something, start over, do 100, and put the weight vest back on, run 2 miles, and it wore me out, but I had a shitload of endurance, man, from doing that. And, so I was, that helped me recover, I think, big time. But that's what I did. And then, one day I'm off. I'm on my patio drinking, having a cigar. Right? Got some headphones on. I'm waiting for something in the mail, and I decide to go check it out. I see my buddy at the time. His car's there. So I call him up, cell phone, like, hey, man, you off for lunch or what, man? And he said, no, it's a nice day. I decided to take it off. He's like, you up for a beer? I'm like, well, hell, I'm out in my office, which is, I called my my patio the office. I'm like, I'm on the office having a drink, out in the office. Come on over if you want to, man. So he swings over, grabs a beer, and we start texting some other people we knew in high school, like, okay, hey, what time are you out? You off today? If not, what time are you out? So I'm going over to Tom's, we'll drink, and then we'll head downtown or something. And that was the plan. We're just going to hang out, drink a little bit, others will show up, and then we'll head out. But, of course, Beer Fest back then was pretty popular. So, of course, we got to try to drink like that. Get pretty tipsy, and beer goes right through you, so I have to get up and go take a leak. As I'm heading off to take a leak, I can feel, something hitting my back, right? And I turn around, and then I wind up falling. I feel something in my leg, right? I got a 13, 14-inch slash on my leg from the damn meat cleaver. I got whacked in the back with a meat cleaver. I was so drunk I didn't really feel it though. I felt it, but not really. I turn around, I see what's coming, and just I got sober, 95% sober. That quick, 95%. Night and day, man, like a light switch or something. Blew my mind how, I couldn't really perceive what was happening. But didn't have time to really let it soak in. Like I had to react quickly. So I got this here on my hand, defensive wound, stopping that damn cleaver, and that was really, really bad. It healed up very well, but anyway, got 15 with lacerations with the cleaver and a fondue fork. I don't know how the hell I got that one else. Anyway, but they said he had a bread knife when they caught him. So I took some pretty good licks with that damn cleaver. Get into a fight, and pretty built, And he was taking some damn good hits. I hit him pretty hard. Broke this big old wooden table we had. Of course, I'm a single guy, young guy. I had this outdoor table inside as a dining table because, hey, cheap. But, yeah. Break the table. He drops the cleaver. And then it's too close to him to actually get it or do anything. So, I go in my room, which I'm close to the door, shut the door, lock it. And I'm like, man, I got to find a weapon to fight him with. And there's nothing around. This lamp, there's a bedside table. This lamp was on that table. I had another phone and a alarm clock. And that was it. I think maybe my wallet or something. But that was it. And I couldn't leave the door. I'm holding the door up. I'm thinking if I get away from the door, he'll take it down. Come through. So I'm holding the door up. And looking around, I see some smaller weights that I didn't use. It was a Marcy grip, right? Those of you who know what I'm talking about, it's the ones that look like a kid's disc gun, They had like where you could put your hand in there, grab them pretty easily. I had 2.5 and 2.5 pounds under the bedside table. And I'm like, okay, I had a gun, but it was in the safe. Of course, I was drinking, which I didn't see the issue, but, I was going to have some company coming to my place, a bunch of people drinking, gun there, I put it in the safe. So I couldn't get to the safe and get it. So I'm like, I gotta find a weapon. Saw the weights, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to wait till he comes through this door. I'm going to grab those weights, and I'm going to throw them, at his chest and stomach, the 2.5 pounds. And then when he takes his eyes off me, I charge at him with these other weights like brass knuckles, and I'm just going to hit him until his head turns soft. And it's a hell of a thing to go through. It's like, the realization of what you're going to have to do here or die. And he didn't know who he was. He thought, those of you who watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force, he thought he was Master Shake. I don't know who the hell he thought I was. But I wasn't a guy that went to high school with him and knew for 9 years. I don't know what the hell he thought I was or who, but, hey, I'm about to die here. He doesn't come through the door. Instead, he winds up leaving. I hear a big crash, the door open. I don't move. I listen. I don't hear anything. I look under the door, and I see the door's open. He's gone. So then it hits me like, man, he's going to kill somebody. I need to stop him. But I feel weak. I'm shaking. I lost a lot of blood. So I'm like, I'm going to catch my breath. I'm going to go after him. Then I pass out. I wake up. I look back. I see my feet by my shoes. I thought I tripped over him. Had a weird dream. I holler for the son of a bitch to help me out, but then I realize I'm in a puddle of blood and it was real. Right? It becomes real all over again. I call 911. Hey, I'm bleeding really bad. I need help. What do I do to stop the bleeding? I put cold water and pressure. It just won't stop. And then I hear knocking on the door, which I had locked. And I looked at the keyhole on the phone. I see a cop and some other faces there. I open the door. I'm grabbed, thrown on the pavement. It's January. It's cold. You know, they cuffed me. One guy, wait, look at his back. Look at his hand. You know, they uncuffed me. They put me on a stretcher. Send me off. Right. And, you know, real quickly I learned, man, things can change, you know, that you would never expect. A lot of the people I considered friends were nowhere to be found. And eventually I disappeared from the few that remained. Right? I just didn't feel comfortable around them anymore. I didn't work for a while. I lived off my savings and the food that I put aside. And for those of you wondering what happened, well, you know, Austin's pretty liberal. We didn't want to be too hard on him. He got 90 days in jail, 10 years probation, restitution. Take I guess alcohol and drug management, all this other crap. But yeah, I was really pissed for a long time. I was an unsavory character. Then I learned to forget about it, you know, just to think about it less and less. And then I wound up seeing him a little while ago. He was working at some thrift store, unloading trucks, and he didn't look too happy. You know, I could tell he had a lot going on. He looked really stressed. He looked like he hadn't aged very well. He was dressed pretty bad. And that right there was enough. I remember I was so ticked off, but I'm like, when I saw that, I was fine. Didn't bother me as much. So, anyway, out of work. I knew the Great Recession was going on, and I remembered, you know, in history that the Great Depression created many millionaires because there were people that saw opportunity. There's always opportunity. And I learned about people who predicted the recession way before it happened in the housing bubble. You know, Ron Paul, Peter Schiff. Learned about hyperinflation, inflation in general, and how fiat currencies always fail, 100% failure rate. Now remember, you know, it usually takes around average of 27 years for fiat currency to fail. However, things have gotten really big. There's never been a global reserve currency that's also fiat. So spread around the whole world. It's bought us some time, but eventually it's going to fail. Eventually I go back to work, got short-term disability payment. About a week after I went back to work, you know, I got all that money back. Fast forward 2009, 2010, swine flu pandemic. Same strand that caused the 1918 Spanish flu spreads over 200 countries around the world. Right? I wasn't worried about that one because it killed some, I think my great-grandmother. You know, so my grandmother must have been infected. It killed one of her sisters, I think. And, you know, I'm like, and same thing on my grandfather's side. Like, well, if they were infected and they survived, they have the antibodies, right? So pass them down to my parents, pass them to me, I'll be fine, or I should be. High probability I would be okay. And as you can see, I was correct on that. That's what I was telling people. I'm like, well, that's what I think. And in Mexico, it seemed to be more fatal because, well, I was thinking more in rural areas, you know, when they didn't get infected way back living in the country. Way back when that happened, well, they didn't get the antibodies. They couldn't pass them down to people now. So, but it did happen, right? A lot of people were scared. You know, if it would have got bad, well, I wouldn't have to worry about getting supplies. If I would go after supplies, but if I wasn't able to get it, I had something to count on. 2014, the Ferguson and Anaheim riots, right? And I have other responsibilities by then. So, by that time, I'm already a prepper. And trying to get the wife on board. She knew that I was different. She didn't know I was a prepper at first, you know. But as we get more serious, she learns more and more. She knew I was a little odd. Water filters. Each time I knew certain things, you know. Fire. Talk about a storm. Well, if it's really, really bad, you know, it could be empty as little as 20 minutes or 3 days without trucks. So she knew certain things. And then when she found out, she's my wife and all, she wasn't a prepper, but she wasn't on board, but she let me do whatever. It's like, well, it's your money, you do your own thing, that's okay. And eventually, I got her on board. Baltimore riots again, violence in the streets, people burn buildings, flip cars, smash windows, with baseball bats over police violence. See, one thing, whether you think that the police are in the right or in the wrong, doesn't make sense for people to go around burning stuff and destroying property if people that belong to people that don't have anything to do with that, man. People don't think, they just do. And then in Venezuela, economic collapse, starving people eat pets, birds, rats, break into zoos to eat animals. So, that's what got me into prepping, and then stuff that's happened after that just kind of reinforces it, man. And that's pretty much it. That's where we are now. And now the wife's on board. I still do most of it, but she'll pick up things every now and then, or she'll make suggestions every now and then. She's on board. And the little one, not yet. Loose lips sink ships. So right now, camping and stuff like that, I'll put YouTube on TV. I look for female preppers, right, starting a fire, making water filters, stuff like that. So she'll watch. I won't think it's, that's for the guys, That way she'll get more comfortable with the idea. But for now, that's how I'm introducing her to it. And when she gets older, then she can know how to keep secrets. Yeah. Anyway, that's my story. You want to make a video response and share yours. I'd like to hear it, man. Go ahead and post them in this video. If they get marked as spam, I'll approve them. Maybe other people might want to know why, how. We all get to the same destination, but different paths. All right, guys. That's it for me. I'm out. Y'all have a good one.